Hello there everybody, this is Kristen. Welcome back to Crochet Witch Tarot, and this is really fun new tag. I feel giddy right now because this was so much fun to watch from, oh my gosh, names. Dawn Michelle, Marlene Teresa, Lisa Papez, and Dani Mystic with the hashtag Deck Crush tag, all for Valentine's Day, which is so much fun. I'm not one for the classic Valentine's Day. I don't know really anyone who totally is, but I am all here for the fun stuff around it. I love pink, I love red, I love them together. I'm here for it. I am so here for this tag. I had so much fun thinking about this. So, that being said, I think we should just get right into it. Now, for today, I pretty much picked all tarot. I don't know, I just thought that would be fun. I'm kind of considering doing an oracle version because, I don't know, I love oracle decks. I think that could be really fun. So let me know if that sounds interesting at all. But let's just get started. So the first prompt is the fling. So a deck with which you had a short period of wild and crazy times. And my deck for that is the Crimson Asteria Tarot. Now, I love this deck. This is not to say that I don't love this deck. When I first got this one in, which actually I got this copy from Allie at Totero. She had an extra copy she was selling and very nicely offered it to me saying, hey, I think you're really gonna like this, even if you haven't considered it before, which I totally did not. And she was so correct. I don't know what it is about this style of artwork, but it just totally works for me. Now, when I got this deck, it was like mid to late summer, I want to say, and this just, it feels very summery to me. So the reason I chose this as my fling is because for those few weeks of the summer I had it, I was so obsessed with this deck. But I think just once it hit fall time, I got so into wanting to use my Halloween decks and Samhain decks and those fall feeling decks that this one just kind of slipped off the radar a bit. So we really did have a bit of a... Oh my gosh, we were summer lovin'. Happened so fast. Okay, anyway. So we really did, we had a summer fling, me and Crimson Asteria, and oh my, looking through it right now, I am getting like, oh, I'm getting excited. This deck is so amazing. Something about it just really speaks to me. It feels like very divine energy almost. I cannot wait for the reprint of Solera Occulto. It looks amazing. I saw today it's gonna be on Kickstarter. So exciting. Anyhow, we're just talking a bunch today. This is my fling deck, and you can absolutely bet your bottom that as soon as summer hits again, I mean, how summery is this? She's coming back out. Oh, such a good one. Actually, we're gonna leave her out right now. I love this deck. So, that is my fling deck, and that is the Crimson Asteria. Now, next up, we've got Puppy Love. And did anyone else, as soon as they saw, anytime I see the phrase puppy love, I think of that, Donny Osmond song? I don't need to grace you with any more of my singing, but if you haven't heard it, highly recommend. I couldn't tell you why, but I was obsessed with that song as a child. Anyway, so that has been in my head since seeing whichever video I watched first of these. I pretty much binged these videos, so I couldn't tell you which. Regardless, doesn't matter. Puppy Love is the deck that you were infatuated but couldn't make a long-term commitment to. And for me, that's the Witchfolk Tarot. I had such a cool time with this deck when I first got it. It's so different. I really love how it went in its own direction. This was when I was really adding quite a few more elements, I would say, to my witchcraft practice, which absolutely leans in a folk witchcraft direction. And this just felt like something really witchy and fun to play with while that was going on. But I don't know. It's just, I think because, I don't know, this one's tricky for me because I would say, like, because I have to lean so much into the guidebook that I don't use it very often, which is very interesting because I don't have qualms usually at all about really having to spend time with a guidebook. But as a tendency, I would say, I love having a really good guidebook, but I do also like to feel like the cards are readable without it, I guess I should say. And I absolutely make many exceptions. I like having a deck that I feel like I have to really spend time with, and I think when it comes down to it, I do have a few decks that I really want to put that kind of work into, and this one, it's just always going to fall to the bottom of that list, so it's just kind of languishing, as cool as it is. So this one actually already has its future home. I'm sending this one off to Sandy in her next package because she's interested in trying it, and I have a feeling she's really going to love it. I don't know. I think it really could be an interesting deck if you, like, pulled one card a day or something and really got into it. I don't know. It's a very cool deck, I have to say, and I love the images. I do kind of wish, I think it would have been different if I was able to get one of the first editions that came in that linen cardstock. I think it would have been a different story. Who knows, though. Anyway, that's my Puppy Love deck, and it is the Witch Folk Tarot and or Folk Witch Tarot. We've got it both ways, so call it what you will. It'll come up on Google either way, probably. Okay, next is my Friends with Benefits, and this is a deck you care about, but sometimes get extremely passionate for. And right away, I don't know if this is totally what was, like, meant by this prompt, but all I could think about right away was my Halloween Tarot. I freaking love this deck. I love it. So this is my version in a tin. I do have the full size as well, but this just was closer at hand. So we took out this one. And so this is a deck I absolutely love. But if I'm going to be real, this one barely sees the light of day, if at all, when it's not September, October. It just, that's when it comes out. So when I saw this prompt, all I could think of was this deck, because as soon as that air gets that crisp smell, oh my gosh, it's like everything in my body is like, it's Halloween Tarot time. And then this is like the only deck I want to use. That's being dramatic. I've got other spooky decks I like using that time of year, but I really make an effort to spend time with my Halloween Tarot because I know I've got the tendency to not pull it out any other time of year. And that's okay, because it's so much fun. It's so much fun that time of year. So I care so much about this deck, but does the passion return to my body? Ew, what a weird way to say that. Oh my gosh. Rewind. I become very passionate about this deck as soon as fall time hits. As soon as I smell pumpkin spice in the air, as one does, of course, when fall comes. Actually, now that's like when August comes, which I've been known to take this out in August, and that's okay. Oh, and what I will say, okay, and this year even changed the game. So, I've always, not always, but I've had this tin one for a while. I got it as a gift from my older sister a couple Christmases ago. But this year, when I decided to get the full-size version, so I could keep this one kind of just in my bag at all times during October, and then have the full size at home, it comes with the full-size guidebook. Oh my gosh, if you have not experienced that guidebook and love this deck, I could not. It's so good. It's so good. It really explains the whole picture to you. Am I yelling at you all? Can you tell I'm excited? This is all so besides the point. Anyway, guidebook, amazing. I was so blown away. I couldn't believe it. Should I? Oh my gosh. This is making me want to leave this one out too. Are we going to do it? I think so. I think so. Anyway, that is my Friends with Benefits, and it is the Halloween Tarot. Okay. Next, we've got Love at First Sight, a deck you loved from the start. My pick for that. Hands down. Maybe not hands down. Okay, I'm gonna... Spoiler alert. There was a couple different places where I could have absolutely picked Northern Animal Tarot. But I think we're all very familiar with my love affair with that deck by now, if you've been watching my videos, and so I wanted to keep it interesting. And so I went for other decks that I thought of in those categories, but just to say, Northern Animal, yes. End of story. Anyway, so my Love at First Sight deck absolutely is the Victorian Fairy Tarot. Now, this is one, I got this last year, right? Yes, almost a year ago now. Ugh, can we even with these backs? This is what I saw first, was these backs. And I was like, what is that? I need to know everything. Excuse me, what is that? And of course, it was out of print. So I am not typically one to buy things for out of print prices just because, I don't know. To me, I'm always trying new decks. My general frame of thought is that another deck will come around that I can get that's readily available that will probably fill the same slot. But this one, I mean, I don't know what it was about this one. Because I've even seen, there's that Mystical Fairy Tarot, which I feel like could totally scratch the itch for this one. But this was a deck that I saw and just fell so head over heels for. This is my favorite way to see fairies. Like, fairies are just, they're very important to me. They've always been very important to me. And it feels nostalgic. It just felt like something that I needed to have, you know? And so I waited around for quite a while until one came up for a more reasonable price on eBay. I'm not ever gonna call it a reasonable price, considering this was once probably 20 bucks for someone to buy. No hate at all for like, you know, anyone selling an out-of-print deck for whatever the heck they want. That's your own choice. But I waited until there was a price that I could reasonably afford. And this was my birthday gift last year, and it just, oh my gosh. And I feel like just no ounce of regret. It carried through. That Love at First Sight really just has held so true. It's one of those things where I'm like, it could go back into print tomorrow and I would still feel fine about the experience I had, you know? And I feel like that's when you know. Because usually I'm someone who, don't get me wrong, there's many decks I see pictures of and I'm like, oh yes, like, I love that. That's so gonna work for me. But I've totally had, look at that card. Sandy had such a cool experience with this card when I pulled it for her one time. I still think about that every time I see that card. Anyway, where am I going with this? I'm feeling chatty today. I mean, I've had experiences both ways, where I see something online, get the deck in person, and it doesn't hit the same way I thought it would. Or there's a lot of decks where I see it and I think never in a million years, and somewhere down the line I end up with it and it becomes a favorite. But this one, I had to pick for Love at First Sight because it was totally, I became immediately obsessed, and it was one of the few times where I just really felt like I have to have this. and it is carried through. That feeling carries through to this day. I feel so many things about this deck. All right. Is that enough talking on that? Maybe. That is my Love at First Sight deck, and it is the Victorian Fairy Tarot. Now, next we've got the One Night Stand, which is a deck you tried out but moved on almost immediately. Sometimes you still think about this deck. So, I don't have this deck to show, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm feeling a little sad about it right now. And don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if you see it again. You might. You might. Anyway, it's the Soul Cats Tarot. And so in its stead, we're going to look at the reason that I rehomed it, and it is the Cat Tarot. So, I have said 1,000,001 times that any cat deck I try does not end up working out for me. And a lot of the times it's because I have this one and I love this Cat Tarot, and I still do. But this one is covered in Stevie energy, covered in it. I cannot read any other reading with this deck unless it's about her. There she is, being mischievous. That's what she loves to do on everything, scratch it up. And so really most other cat decks I've tried, I end up rehoming because I don't know, it just, I don't really know. I think I've just convinced myself that I can't read with cat tarots, and I thought in my head as to why is maybe just because I exist in so much cat energy at all times. Stevie, with the amount I talk about her and how many times she shows up in videos on her own accord, I think you can gather that she's got quite the big presence in this household. I mean, we are two working adults with no children. So, as you can imagine, she is our child. So I like to think that maybe the reason I have felt that way is because I'm surrounded by cat energy. This cracks me up. But the Soul Cats is one I rehomed, and ever since, I really think about it, honestly, quite often, and that was so many months ago at this point. To now we're here, and I'm like, I think I need to give that another try, because I don't think I gave it a fair chance. And it's cats, but a lot of it is magical cats, and I think that if I went into it seeing it that way, not seeing it as true cat energy, because I don't really think it is, not compared to this, it doesn't get that essence of cats, you know? Quite the same. Soul Cats, and it's so gorgeous. It's Adam Ohler's art. I think we're gonna have to give it another try sometime soon. And you know what? If it falls flat again, then we learned our lesson. But that is my One Night Stand deck. I don't have it to show. It is the Soul Cats Tarot. Alright. Next up, we've got the We Were On a Break. Such a funny quote from Friends. The We Were On a Break deck, and this is a deck you're separated from for any reason. Now, currently, for me, that is Terra Volatile. I don't know. Me and this deck, we are just not currently getting along. I don't know what it is. But it's, and usually if I'm not getting along with the deck, I'm pretty quick to rehome it, because I don't, as much as I'm okay with having some decks that I have just to have, I certainly have decks like that. If there's a deck that I feel like I don't want it just to have and we're not getting along, I'm quick to rehome, because I don't want anything languishing. I feel bad, you know? This one, though, I don't know. We're not making that connection. But it's not even been a thought in my brain to rehome it, because I don't think that's the right thing for me to do. It feels like I've got this nagging feeling, I guess, that it's going to come around, and there's going to be a time for me in this deck. I think it needs to exist in my space a little bit longer, you know? I don't know, does anyone ever have that happen with a deck where it's like, I think you just need to, I don't know, you need to get with the vibe here. And then we can talk. Which is funny because, I mean, I've had this deck for like a year now? I don't know. So, as of now, this was one of my decks for January, but starting February, I'm putting this deck on a break. Where I'm gonna put it on display, on my shelves. You know, I'm not gonna just... I mean, if I didn't have the space, I would probably just box it up or something and store it somewhere, but I've got the space, so we're gonna put it on display because it is a cool box, you know? And we're gonna let it simmer. We're gonna take a little break, and I think at some point I'm gonna feel ready to return to it, and I just have this feeling when I do, it's gonna be like the perfect deck for something. I just know it. And sometimes that happens, and that's okay. And I've learned my lesson where usually, it's like, even when I have felt that way in the past, I get antsy about it, or I have gotten antsy about it, where there's that, like, feeling of guilt almost for having excess. And so I've rehomed things. I've learned my lesson because many of those decks I've had that happen with, I've repurchased already. And so there's no need for me to do that when I have that feeling. So we're just gonna be on a little break. You know, no harm done there. So that is my We Were on a Break deck, and it is the Terra Volatile. Alright, so we've got 2 more prompts here. So this next deck is where I veer a bit from the tarot category, but to me, it still feels that way. It's not a tarot, but anyway, we'll get into it. This is my Marriage Material deck, so a deck that has proven its value to you, and for me, it's gotta be the Memento Mori Oracle Lenormand. So it is called everything but a tarot, but the reason that... Suddenly I need it to be straight. Okay. The reason that it's still fitting in here for me is because this is not really one I tend to pair ever. If I'm using this deck, typically I'm just reading with this deck. Now, to me this is marriage material because I can use this deck for everything, anything and everything. Any kind of reading I want to do, this is gonna work for me. And it works, to me it works as an oracle, it works as Lenormand if I wanted. I use it in a tarot-like way. And it feels so connected to so many different things. It's kind of like something where I feel like I can ask this deck to do anything, and it's game. And the other way that I kind of thought about this prompt is in terms of proving its worth to me. Because this is a deck that I keep adding to, and it just keeps growing and building and morphing into something new. And so I say that it's proven its worth to me because I keep investing in this deck. I mean, time-wise, but monetarily, because there have been multiple expansion packs. I am part of Claire's Patreon now, so there are single cards I have, you know, coming on the way sometimes. And it's just one that I feel so invested in because I put so much time into it. You know, I pieced together... I don't have every single card I own that is Memento Mori related in my working deck. So I spent time kind of building my own deck. I'm constantly going back and reworking it with the other cards, just seeing if I want to add something back in, take something out. It's just this like living, breathing deck. And so that's where it really fits that marriage category for me in so many different ways, because it's a commitment in so many different ways for me, and I really love it. And it's something that even when I go a while without using it, it's always going to be there when I return. Not saying you should do that in a marriage. You shouldn't do that. Not sending a message there. You should, whoever you are married to, you probably should spend time all of the time. Marriage advice from a non-married woman. Yep. Anyway, okay, besides the point. I love this deck. We feel married, you know? The other deck I could have put in this category, of course, it would be the Cottage Witch Oracle, because I feel married to that deck. I created it. It works in every which way for me because of that. But I wanted to stick to tarot. Here we are looking at an oracle. But again, I use it in a tarot-like way, so it counts. So, that is my marriage material deck, and that is the Memento Mori Oracle. And we are up to the last prompt, which is the Happily Ever After deck. Your true love in a deck. Are we gonna be surprised? Are we gonna be surprised? You know, this is another space I obviously could have put Northern Animal, as if we're gonna be any more surprised by Forest of Enchantment. But the reason I picked this one is because, like, thinking of true love in a deck, I feel like I want it to be a deck that I really do go to it for any kind of reading. And to be honest, I don't really feel I do that with Northern Animal. Northern Animal sits a bit more in the comfort space for me, where Forest of Enchantment, in and of itself as a tarot, feels more balanced. Not to say that Northern Animal does not absolutely call me out, it does. But just due to the fact that I pull so many of those extra oracles. But if I were to remove those, I don't know that it would do that. Does that make any difference here? No, it doesn't. But I felt like I wanted to pick Forest of Enchantment just because of the factor of it feeling so balanced to me. And also, something that would be a true love deck to me is like somewhere that really brings me into a magical world. And I think Forest of Enchantment does that more so than Northern Animal because we see humans here. And Northern Animal we don't really. So as magical as Northern Animal is to me, I don't really get necessarily immersed in the world of Northern Animal. Where the Forest of Enchantment, when I'm reading with this deck, I feel like I'm there. Which really just adds to that true love element for me, I would say. And it's just so good. It's everything. This deck is really just everything to me, I have to say. Which is so cool, because I feel like this deck and I have been on such a journey. This is one that could have fit in so many other categories as well, but at the same time, I don't even know, because it took me a while to actually purchase this deck for some reason. I have no idea why. But we were a bit of a slow burn, because I got this deck and I was feeling sick at the time I got it, so I remember having so much fun flipping through the cards, but then it was a while until I really started reading with it. But then it's just like all of a sudden we reached this point where I was like, oh my gosh, like I cannot be without this one. All of a sudden. It's so great. Oh, look at that. 3 bears. So cute. So, this is my true love deck, and it is the Forest of Enchantment. And for now, that is all I have to share with you all. I am tempted to do an Oracle one. I think I might. I think that'd be fun. Let me know what you all think. But other than that, I hope that you all will have a splendid Valentine's Day. I'm sure I will talk to you again before then, but in case I don't, make sure you treat yourself nicely on that day. Get yourself some candy. Have a grand time. Anyway, I'm gonna go now because I'm just rambling now. But I hope you all have had a fantastic week so far, and I will see you again very soon.